this one supplement every single day is changing people's lives. It's helping them to lose unwanted body fat, to reverse their insulin resistance. It's helping to reverse dementia, Alzheimer's disease, osteoarthritis, and it even can help you outperform in sports, fatigue less, beating your opponent. If that sounds like a lot of hyperbole, well, welcome to the language utilized in supplement advertising and supplement marketing. This one supplement we're going to be talking about in today's video, it gets a lot of attention, and you guys are asking me, what's the deal with this supplement? Can it do anything for our skin? Can it help our skin, our bodies, our hair, our nails? What is this supplement? It's called L-carnitine. It plays a key role in vital functions in our body, namely at the site of the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. L-carnitine is important for transporting long-chain fatty acids into the mitochondria so that they can be properly broken down and utilized for energy, for the production of ATP. L-carnitine is also really important for export of things that could be damaging to the mitochondria. How do we get this wondrous ingredient into our bodies? Your body is equipped with machinery that makes all the L-carnitine you really need. It takes the amino acids that we get from our diet, lysine and methionine, and it forms L-carnitine. It's made in our brain, our skeletal muscles, and our liver. While people claim all sorts of things about L-carnitine and health, like I said, for the most part, otherwise healthy people, and frankly, even most unhealthy people, make all of the L-carnitine you could ever really need. And in fact, it's considered a conditionally essential nutrient, meaning that only under certain circumstances, certain conditions, would you ever actively need to be supplementing with it, such as people who have chronic kidney failure and are on dialysis, premature babies, and people who have certain genetic diseases. You also can eat food that contains L-carnitine. So we get it largely from animal sources, eating meats and things of that sort. There is no recommended daily intake for healthy adults and children because there's no need to actively seek it out in your diet, unless of course you are someone who conditionally needs it. Our body is pretty good at extracting it from food should we choose to eat foods that are rich in it. About 63% of the L-carnitine in our diet will be absorbed into the body. Now, of course, where there is a nutrient, there is going to be a supplement. Again, for people who fall under the umbrella of situations where carnitine becomes a conditionally essential nutrient, they need to supplement. And then, of course, for people who are looking to tweak parameters around and think that supplementing with this nutrient might make a difference. True carnitine deficiency can be reversed by supplementation, anywhere from 20 to 200 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. Most people in this health and wellness space that are looking at information about carnitine supplementation, they're not on dialysis, they don't have these rare genetic diseases, but can supplementing with L-carnitine change the game for any health metric? Well, truthfully, there are some clinical studies looking at L-carnitine supplementation for a variety of health issues, such as, like I alluded to hyperbolically in the intro, dementia, Alzheimer's disease, osteoarthritis, weight loss, insulin resistance, infertility, peripheral artery disease, and cardiovascular disease. And while a lot of these studies are interesting, they show promise that supplementing with L-carnitine could be helpful in these situations. More research is needed because the studies have a lot of limitations and don't properly answer the questions. Either they're not well powered, they don't look long enough, it's just very, okay, this is interesting, maybe this can serve as fuel for a larger study where we ask questions in a more controlled fashion. I'm a dermatologist, why am I talking about this? What could it possibly ever have to do with the skin? We're talking people interested in it for better sport performance. Well, probably the most compelling reason, although not solid proof that you need it, has to do with people who are prescribed isotretinoin. Isotretinoin, commonly referred to as its branded name, Accutane, is an oral retinoid used to treat, well, cystic acne, but we use it off-label to treat a variety of other skin diseases. And if you've ever been on isotretinoin, perhaps you experienced muscle aches in the beginning. This is a commonly encountered side side effect, but sometimes people develop this side effect and it's so uncomfortable for them, they need to have their isotretinoin dosage modified, and that can kind of be a pain because having to be on a lower dose may mean that you have to be on the drug for longer than you want. So is there a way to reduce the muscle weakness and not have to tweak around the drug dosage? Well, a study looking at if carnitine could make a difference in that really set out to see what the effect was, because a little bit of a backstory, some of the working idea as to why isotretinoin does cause muscle aches for some, okay, it's not everyone, is that it may lower temporarily L-carnitine in the muscles. And obviously people who do a lot of sport, they tend to be the ones who really feel this the most, although again, anyone can have it. So what this study did, it was non-randomized, and it looked at 230 patients who had been prescribed isotretinoin for cystic acne. It enrolled them in the study on the basis of them having developed myalgia. So of the 230 patients they identified, they found 40 who had myalgia. In general, their myalgia had an average onset of 11 to 19 days after starting isotretinoin, which is pretty typical of people who do develop this side effect. Of the 40 participants, half of them were given L-carnitine and the other half were given a placebo. The L-carnitine was dosed at 100 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. Within about 5 to 6 days, the group getting the L-carnitine had resolution of their myalgia and no tweaking of their isotretinoin was necessary. As opposed to the placebo group, their symptoms of myalgia did persist. So this is really compelling because, like I said, we are interested in ways around this side effect if we can reduce its risk. So this shows promise. And the study also did show that patients who developed myalgia on isotretinoin did have a drop in L-carnitine, and that was corrected with the supplement. So it's a really interesting study, but it's small and more research studies are needed. So depending on your dermatologist and you developing this, they might suggest it in order to alleviate it, but don't be surprised if they don't, because we tend to like to see really good scientific evidence for interventions before just recommending them to people. But wherever there is a nutrient, a supplement, an ingredient, a drug, and we're talking about the skin, the advantage of our skin, let's not forget, is that it's a lot more accessible than, say, targeting your kidney. You can put a cream on with ingredients and they might work. And in the case of L-carnitine, do we have any solid evidence that applying it to the skin could be a game changer for any sort of outcome? We have preclinical studies, meaning cells in a dish, that suggest that L-carnitine applied to the skin might help you guys out who deal with oily skin, because it may help the oil gland cells, the sebocytes, take up the free fatty acids more efficiently, converting them to ATP. So ultimately that means less sebum production and more energized sebocytes, if you will. We don't have good clinical data though on applying it topically. It appears to be well tolerated, however, and you will encounter L-carnitine in certain skincare products. You might even already be using it and blithely unaware, because the skincare market is packed with all sorts of creams, serums, lotions, potions with various and sundry ingredients. Well, that's all well and good. Are there any harms to supplementing with L-carnitine? That's something that maybe you want to experiment around with. I do suggest asking your healthcare provider first and clarifying with them if it's safe for you to do so. But what are the downsides of supplementing with L-carnitine? A lot of people are under the impression that a dietary supplement is going to be safe, all natural, way better than that big pharma mumbo jumbo. Well, I have to tell you, if you supplement with L-carnitine, especially at doses greater than 3 grams per day, you might, well, start to feel pretty ill. It can make you very nauseous. It can cause you to vomit. You may have abdominal cramps. Does that sound like fun? It sounds like when you're watching a pharma advertisement and they get to the end and it says side effects may include explosive diarrhea, and you're like, no thanks. Well, the thing about supplements, remember, they don't have to do that disclosure exposure like the big pharma stuff does, but they can have the same side effects, all right? So you might get diarrhea. But importantly, probably the side effect that is most off-putting, and one that, in my opinion, would not be worth any theoretical benefit of just overall health, is the fact that, well, it can make you smell like rotting fish. For me, that's a no. That is a no. But for you, maybe you don't mind smelling a little fishy. Not everyone develops this side effect, but what happens with the L-carnitine is that unnecessary amounts of L-carnitine in the digestive tract appear to be broken down by the bacteria in your gut, and that results in the production of something known as TMAO, as well as gamma-butyrobutane. The TMAO may contribute to this odor. In fact, there are people who have this rare condition called trimethylaminiuria, and they have a fishy odor. A lot of this has to do with the dose, but something to keep in mind. Now, you may find rumblings on the internet of people claiming, oh, I'm taking this supplement, I stink like rotting fish, I'm going to try taking another supplement to address it. You see how this is a sort of same song and dance criticism that people have against pharmaceuticals, you also run into with supplements, okay? You take a supplement, you develop a side effect, so take another supplement to deal with it. In this case, it's going to be vitamin B2. There is some evidence that for people with trimethylaminiuria and who are having that fishy odor, that B2 supplementation might help reduce that. The other issue I see, and something to think about, is again, not all supplements are safe and effective. They can have side effects, which we've discovered here, but you also have to query the theoretical risk wherein you are potentially increasing TMAO. Ultimately, this could put you at increased risk for cardiovascular disease, which presumably if you're in the space of health and wellness and you're just trying to optimize health, optimize longevity, you're pursuing this supplement, you could be actually jeopardizing your health and wellness plans. Hence the supplement circle jerk, I call it. People go looking to have problems that they don't have, and they reach for supplements as a solution to an issue that doesn't exist, and then they end up developing issues like smelling like rotting fish. So if that sounds like a no biggie to you and you're motivated to try it, have at it. But be aware that side effects are going to be more likely if you exceed 3 grams per day. All right, y'all, that's a wrap up with regards to L-carnitine. Let me know in the comments, is this something you have entertained the idea of taking? Also, if you're someone who has taken it, remember, comments are for the most part anonymous unless you have a photo and your actual name. Drop a comment below if you feel so comfortable telling us if you ended up smelling foul. No judgment. Speaking of smelling foul, check out my video, which I'll put on the end slate, on why you stink and what to do about it. I give a lot of practical tips and tricks and highlight certain things you may not be aware of that lead to, well, foul body odor. This being one of them, but there are several others. So check that one out next if you are curious about body odor. But if you like this one, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.